Hey guys, and welcome back to Scrub League. Sam here with Aden and Kevin. For a minute there, you would think from social media that the end is nigh in the HOTS world, because from the support apocalypse to the roster apocalypse, we're going to be talking about what all of these big changes mean for players and pros alike. Also, typical Kevin wants to bring speedrunning into the mix, and Aden also has some interesting ideas about the new Escape from Braxis brawl mode and what they should do with that going forward. But to start us off, Kevin, bring us up to speed on what is being dubbed the support apocalypse and what this means for the meta.
Yeah, so I mean, you say that the end is nigh. I think the end has already occurred. It's over, the game's done, we can all pack up, we can all move over to PUBG.
Yes.
Yes.
No, I think this is all fine. It just feels terrible. It just feels really bad that they've waited this long to kind of nerf the whole support class. And they had a lot of reasons for doing this. It's just people ain't listening. They're not buying it for the most part, judging from what I'm hearing from the community.
So for people who may not know, what exactly happened in this apocalypse of supports?
Okay, so basically here's the general changes they made to, I believe, every single support hero except for Lily, who was really undertuned after her rework. They have weakened everybody's wave clear on supports, including cutting some talents such as Lightning Bond on Rhaegar, because that's one thing that they want you to be losing out on when you when you do double support compositions. They want you to have less wave clear and be cognizant of that. They're also decreasing damage by 5%. They're decreasing healing by 5%, and they're decreasing health by 5%. So basically, just supports all across the board, 5% worse.
I think Alex Straza was another one that just saw. I mean, she saw the health reduction, but otherwise, I guess they were pretty satisfied with where her healing was. Because I think the only other change she got was a cast range increase on her W. I think. Yeah.
And all things considered, I think Lily, I say anyway, she came out of this the best that it could be hoped for, because her damage got nerfed and she did lose some health along with everybody else, but her healing got buffed. And I actually think she's still going to be really viable. I know people are going to make fun of me, but I honestly think Lily's going to stay one of those really meta heroes, and she's going to be really useful.
Aid, you want to comment on Lily's meta viability going forward?
Just, I don't know. It's still weird to me that she's not. Like, it was weird for me for a while because I just never saw it. And then I saw Damage Lily and I was like, okay, I can get on board with this. And now it doesn't really exist anymore. So now, like, I've been betrayed. So I don't know. I feel like a lot of people are probably going to be in the same boat and they're just going to keep smack talking you when you pick Lily.
Yeah, I mean, they nerfed her ability to lock down people with blinds, which was a strong niche, and they nerfed her damage, so she's not as much of a bruiser as she was before. So even though her sustain healing is much, much better, I mean, unless the numbers pan out that she's way better at it than other people, the lack of control that you have with Lily, I think, is still a big strike against her for competitive play. But we'll see. We'll see. I'm not saying it's out of contention. I just think that the number's going to have to be tuned really high for that to be the case.
I think she's going to go back to one of her more fun purposes, which is being the bait. To bait the team into a gank, or to bait people into a gank or something like that, because she's still really fast. And I just feel like she's going to be weaving in and out during a team fight, mixing things up. And she's a lot of fun to play. She was already a lot of fun to play. And I don't know. I think for some reason we're going to see a Lily surge here. Mark my words.
Now, do you guys, just from your play experience, did you feel like these nerfs were warranted?
This is where I might disagree with the two of you, because I didn't think that. I'm not sure what the solution would have been to get rid of the 2 support meta, but I don't know if this was quite what they should have done. I don't think a broad super nerf of all healers may have been the way to go.
I'm actually kind of on the same page as you on this for once. I'm sort of almost of two minds on this. Like, in the context of double support meta, then sure, yes, tone down some of the ability to just always heal forever and be the best at it, sure. But I don't think the best way to stop double support meta from taking over as a thing is to make double support meta the only viable option. Like, if you reduce the healing output of single healers, then what option do we have but go double healer every time?
Yeah, that's actually in the developer insights that they put on that Blizzard put out for the double support team composition changes. They said over the last several months, the live design team has been debating how to address it. They're saying, if we nerf healing numbers, do we just see teams bringing two supports more often just to have enough healing? If we buff
Yes.
healing numbers, can you make do with a single support and potentially see less double support? Should we be buffing a group of characters that we already feel are pound for pound more powerful than other characters? So it says while they're still debating the best solutions, they want to take a crack at this. So this is the number of changes that they've made in terms of weakening wave clear, damage, and healing across the board. So this is their first stab at the solution.
Well, one thing that comes to me as you say that is, could they not have buffed everybody's healing and buffed their health pool, but taken away all of, like, they wanted to take away their laning abilities. So why not take those away, take the damage away, but allow them to stay in the fight to heal a bit longer and buff their healing so that they're staying truer to their purpose. And that way you can go in with a solo healer because their healing is, well, their actual purpose is buffed.
Well, the problem is that if you buff their healing, then you might see hypercarry. Like we're in also a hypercarry meta right now, or were before these nerfs. So the possibility is that if you nerf other things, but you preserve or strengthen their healing capacity, then you might even have a greater reliance on hypercarries like your Valas and your Greymanes.
I don't think that's necessarily a terrible thing, though, because that introduces more of a rock, paper, scissors, but with 18 different options kind of meta, where if you take one support, you can then do the hyper carry route, but then if you have something that locks down that hyper carry or removes them from the picture, then you've successfully countered that. So they need to counter the dude that counters that, etc., etc. So it kind of makes drafting a much more interesting process. So again, I'm kind of on Sam's side here, which is weird.
This is what they're saying,
it's like
though.
foreign territory.
This is what they're saying, that they were hoping that these changes are going to open up more drafting options, because they say right now the situation is you have a tank, you either have a second tank or a bruiser for your second slot, you need a healer to keep your team alive, and then there's 2 spots left. So right now that leads with typically another healer and then only 1 assassin. So that makes it so that assassin picks have to be that hyper carry because they're the only real damage dealing force on the team. So that reduces the number of assassins you're choosing. And it says that right now, like 2 support is just the correct strategy regardless of map, enemy team composition, anything. So they want it to be good in some cases, but not all the time.
To bring a bit more balance, what they could have also done, and we see this a bit in the hammer rework, which we'll talk about later, could they not have balanced it out by buffing things in, say, tanks, or something to balance out the nerf to the healers, like something that would help people to pick those certain other roles that they need to fill the team? So I guess it would be assassins because no one was picking assassins. But could they not balance it out another way?
This change to healing is actually, like, healing got a stealth buff some time ago, about a year ago, when they introduced the new armor system. So having warriors have less health but more armor makes each point of healing more effective. And they indicated at the time that they were going to nerf healing, but then it just never happened. to compensate. So healing has actually been much better than normal for the last year. So this is their attempt at kind of shifting it back down to where healing was a year ago.
I don't know. I know that from what I can see on Twitter, the pros aren't exactly happy about this.
What do the pros know about anything?
Just, how to play the game at its most entertaining. Um, I don't know, guys. Like, I just feel like this may have been the wrong solution. I think and Blizzard generally has this problem where they see a problem, they react to it, and they often go too far one way, and they end up having to back up a little bit and balance it out. And I think we're going to see that with this in some way, shape, or form. They're going to have to make changes to this.
Well,
What?
let me ask you.
Blizzard over nerf?
Yeah.
What?
Let me ask you this question. You're all saying that this is like a bad change and there's all these other options they could have done. Why do you think this is actually bad? Like, what has it actually harmed?
Well, I think if they are setting out to stop the double support meta from being the overriding meta, they've actually just succeeded in making it necessary.
Yeah.
I think the idea is it's supposed to be you can no longer just heal through everything forever. So you now have one healer on your team so that you can top up outside of combat and a little bit in combat. And that's a huge thing. It's making sure that you're entering into every engagement topped up. But two supports doesn't necessarily make that better than one support, to the degree that you would need to choose two supports.
Because I can totally see here with all of this happening, like Aden said, like it's going to be somebody and like Tyrande who can still do damage but can still do a little bit of healing. Like I feel like they're not fixing the problem. I don't know. Again, I'm not sure what the solution would have been. Just I don't know if a broad spectrum nerf of healing. The other thing you could start seeing is no healing. What if people just start going double tank and like double beefy tank, not just a bruiser and a tank? And what if we
Then
actually end
Tychus
up
wins.
seeing? Yeah, Tychus and Malthael are gonna have a field day. But do you guys think that might be possible? I know it's a bit out there, but do you think we could start seeing like a no healer comp and maybe just like Tassadar with shields or Zarya with shields or something like that?
I think if right now we're debating the viability of a single support comp, we won't see a zero support comp for quite a while unless someone discovers some secret tech that we're all overlooking that just utterly breaks the meta. But I don't think so, because that just makes like I said, if someone goes no support and the enemy team has Tychus, you hard lose.
Yeah, I
Yeah,
mean,
that's true.
here's the situation, right? Like, when we choose our 5-man, we would never approve of a situation where we have like Zarya and Tassadar and like Medivh, right? Because although that you have shields and that heavily mitigates, burst damage and maybe even more sustained damage depending on how many of them you have, the reason why that doesn't work is because nobody's healing. Nobody's bringing you back up to full between, after, and before engagements. So I think no matter how bad they make healers, you still want one on your team just to provide that very valuable function of entering into engagements healed up, or disengaging and then re-engaging with more health.
Yeah, if you make the choice to make it so if someone on your team gets low, they are now completely out of this fight until the next fight, then you've made the wrong choice for your team. I don't think there is any situation where that is good. Like, just imagine it's a situation where every single time you get into a team fight, the enemy team's healer is dead. That is a situation I would love to be in.
Yeah, but I think Sam is right that, depending on what sort of dials Blizzard is turning, we could end up with very wildly different strategies, different compositions going forward. I just don't think a 5% nerf is really going to do anything to drastically change it. I think it's just going to make different comps more viable. But we're going to see whether, like, even Blizzard themselves is suggesting that, like, maybe this isn't going to have the desired effect, right? So we're just going to have to see how this pans out, and I'm sure they're going to keep having to tweak things going forward. Not to mention with all of the other changes going into these 2018 updates, with laning and stealth and so on, everything's going to be in flux. So this is just one more thing that's going to be changing things up in this very difficult period.
Well, the support apocalypse was not the only change that was made, and I think Aiden's pretty excited about one particular rework that they did. Aiden, why don't you tell us about that?
The tank apocalypse, i.e., I'm going to play Sergeant Hammer now for the rest of my life. Sergeant Hammer is one of the characters I learned the game on. I learned the game on Sergeant Hammer and Nova, which I'm sure says a lot about me as a person.
Yeah, good God.
But for anyone who doesn't know, Sergeant Hammer makes a little bit more sense now. They finally put her siege mode on her D. Why it took this long, I honestly have no idea.
Amen.
It was always kind of stupid that it was on her E for no good reason, and also had a mana cost, and just, I don't know. But there's just, instead of having her siege mode on E, she has the thing she's always needed, survivability in siege mode on E. Neo Steel Plating gives a flat 25 armor or 50 armor in siege mode. Thank you, God. Honestly, that's all I needed for Hammer, and I would play her forever again.
Yeah, I actually, in my early days of Heroes, I didn't learn on Hammer, but actually she was the first specialist that I played, and I was kind of in love with her for a really long time. I played almost nothing but her for a few months, and I loved her, but like Aiden said, I never knew why Siege had to be her E ability, because I felt like her kit was missing something. Her kit was a lot lesser than others because there was one thing you could never actually use, and I actually love these changes, and I think it's going to bring her back for me too. So I think Aiden and I, when we play together, are going to be fighting over Sergeant Hammer a little bit, because I played her a little bit today, and I absolutely loved the changes.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
I think there's probably still room to maybe dial back some of these changes, because there's already a way to just get a flat plus 90% basic attack damage, and that feels really strong. Maybe too strong on someone whose basic attack damage is already, world ending.
And I do like the changes to her talent tiers. The one that we brought this up one time when we were playing, is the tier 1 or level 1 talent tier where you can siege for extra damage but also be invisible. And what I don't understand is how useful that invisibility part is, because as soon as you start shooting, you are not invisible anymore. So I'm struggling to find the usefulness in that, but I take it for the extra damage on siege mode. Do you find the same thing, Aiden?
Well, they've changed it so now you can re-stealth after 3 seconds of not, taking damage or attacking or whatever. So there is a way to get the stealth back. It used to be just flat useless before. Like, I don't know why anyone would bother when you literally couldn't get it back. You can re-stealth now. It's still like a pretty niche choice. It sort of combos still. It combos a little bit better with the hover tank talent now, though the hover tank talent is now half as good as before. So, plus it's in the same talent tier as Maelstrom rounds. Level 1, they give her 40% bonus damage. So I don't know why I would ever take a kind of niche stealth talent when I could just do 40% more damage.
I guess I just never see the need to be invisible as Hammer. Maybe I've just never been in a comp or on a team where that's really been, our strategy. but I've never really seen the usefulness in her being invisible.
I mean, it could be pretty deadly letting a squishy wander into, like, not just the towing into her damage range, or her attack range, but like fully going into her attack range and then having to leave that range. That's pretty deadly.
Well, I'm down here in bronze, and you need team coordination for that, and that's not something I see very often.
The other thing that sort of intrigues me, and I hope pans out, is there's maybe a potential for a spider mine build to like maybe be a thing. Like, there's definitely, absolutely, survivability just worked into her kit really easily now, and the way the talents stack up, you can still get a lot more survivability for this person that needs to stop moving to be effective, which is nice. But there's basically the one question I need to know for the spider mines is the talent at 20 that makes a spider mine explosion reduce enemy armor. Does that stack? Because if so, I'm going to stack that with the talent that makes them explode 3 times and the talent that makes me drop a trail of 5 mines when I'm using my thrusters. And it's going to be the dopest.
Well, here's a couple things. So one, I believe they will stack because it says each spider mine explosion reduces enemy armor by 10 for 3 seconds. So I don't think they would use the word each there otherwise. However, there is a cap on armor reduction for heroes.
How much?
I don't recall. I think maybe it's 25%.
That's still pretty damn good when she can also get 90% bonus damage outside of that.
What about you, Kevin? Is this going to make her more appealing for you?
Yeah, well, I'm really enthused by how excited you guys are for these changes because I think Hammer, like balancing Hammer is very tricky because if she's too good, then the gameplay is just really unfun. It's just she sets up in an area and you just can't get in there. You can't deal with her. You have to like lob things from a mile away with like Junkrat or Li Ming or something. Asmodan, yeah, thank you. Yeah, so it can be kind of oppressive. Like if she just auto attacks anyone, and they can't approach her. The problem was always that you could just dive on her and then she would explode. So I'm glad that survivability was a big feature of the rework while in siege mode. I'm glad that siege mode was a big feature of the rework because before it was mostly a trap. You just never, if you were playing Hammer correctly, you were just generally not in siege mode. And that kind of reduced the whole like fantasy of the hero. What my concern is that possibly what they've done is made it so that it's more attractive to go into siege mode, but it's still the wrong choice the majority of the time. That's like the tricky balance, right? Is before people wanted to go in siege mode because it was, it was the fantasy, right? You siege up, you could just blow people up from miles away. My concern is maybe they're incentivizing something that is still bad and it's just going to be an even bigger trap. But it sounds like to me that they probably put in enough benefits and the right type of benefits to make it a viable and not oppressive style of play.
It's funny because I think our worries for Hammer are almost completely opposite. I am looking at her changes and I'm kind of worried that they've made possibly siege mode too good. Like flat 50 armor is very, very strong and arguably what she needed, but
flat 50 armor for every 2 seconds out of every 16 seconds, I think.
12-second cooldown.
12 seconds.
But considering she can also like make her unstoppable and she can self cooldown her escape is kind of nuts. Plus her escape can drop like further CC so you can't chase her. and she becomes weirdly hard to pin down at this point instead of being the easiest to pin down. And
Right.
also, oh, by the way, I'm doing plus 90% damage to your face.
So, how do we prepare people for this new Lily Hammer meta? What team compositions do you think Hammer is going to be chosen in now if we're entertaining the idea that she's possibly viable?
Murden.
Anywhere where Butcher is. If you put Lily and Hammer in on a Butcher, you're just gonna have Lily blind him, and the Hammer will now be able to get away from Butcher. Well, and I don't know. What comp are we gonna see with Hammer and Lily? That's
I mean,
that's a bit of a hard.
at this point, you don't even need Butcher to get away as Hammer. That's kind of part of the problem. Like, if the enemy team has Butcher, you're taking the talent that makes your E unstoppable. Thus, when Butcher gives you that giant audio cue that he's coming, you pop your E and you thrusters away, and then you laugh at him. He literally can't stop you anymore. It's weird.
So who can stop her? Maybe Zeratul?
People who that's an option. People who outrange her, like the people we mentioned earlier, Asmodan and
except stealthies are easy to see now.
But they can't be targeted.
She has a cone shot, friendo.
Well, Valera can teleport, and so can Zeratul.
Yeah, that's what I'm thinking. Is Zeratul is going to really be the bane of her existence, because even if you can see him, if he does start attacking you, it's going to be very hard to get him off of you, whether you can see him or not.
Honestly, I'm still not worried because unstoppable, drop a trail of mines, bye. Like, it answers like all the problems that she had, probably too many of the problems.
Okay, so Hammer OP now.
Like, maybe I foresee absolutely, like, in the next couple patches, her changes are going to be toned down. Absolutely. Maybe like make the unstoppable only for 1 second on that talent. Maybe reduce armor to like 40 instead of 50, because 50 is kind of nuts. I don't know, but there's got to be something, because right now she's like you know how Junkrat has a get out of jail free card on his ult? She has a get out of jail free card on a 12-second cooldown.
Well, I just hope that you two Hammer fans don't have to go through the sorrow that I went through when they nerfed Zul'jin back down to obscurity.
I'm foreseeing that. I'm already preparing myself for it. I know it's going to happen. I mean, you're talking to the guy who played Li Ming when she came out. I'm ready for this. Don't worry.
I was there for that, and it was gross. Like, the amount of damage you were able to do was just gross.
So picture that, but on basic attacks at plus 90%. Bop, bop, bop. Hammer wins.
Oh boy, I think we have a novelty comp in the making here.
No, we tried that. It was really terrible, remember?
But now maybe it won't be terrible.
I mean,
right, guys?
If it's see, it'd be almost a good idea this time, Kevin.
Thanks.
Why couldn't your idea come later?
Oh yeah, Aden. The other thing that you were really excited about, and we just tried this before recording this, is the Escape from Braxis Brawl that they brought out. And they brought it out in 2 different difficulties. They did an easier one, and now the one called the heroic one. And you had a pretty interesting idea about this.
Well, first off, I'd like to say I don't know if that one was much harder, because kind of did it on my first try, so I don't really see what all the hubbub is about. But
I do seem to remember a lot of screaming and wailing during that.
Maybe a little bit of
yeah, I was in character because I was being attacked by the Zerg guys. That's a big deal.
Well, see,
you were played StarCraft.
Yeah, well, you were just being carried by me and Kevin because we had already played it, so our backs are pretty sore.
Didn't you guys already play it, but like also never win it?
Yeah, I'm not even gonna mention how many times I played it and didn't win it, but I'm gonna blame that on my team, like a typical tryhard.
Wasn't I like the only one alive at one point, and I rescued all you guys like a champion?
Yeah, while screaming like a little girl.
You're right. Because I was role playing as Zarya, who's a little girl.
Little.
But I'm pretty amped about it. I mean, it's easily the coolest brawl they've done. Like it has
Pool
an
party.
almost
Thank you
narrative
very
element
much.
to it. Shut up.
Those pool parties were.
No.
Don't even try and tell me this is better than pool party.
Pool party, more like garbanzo.
Yeah, but did you guys do the Chromie pool one too? Because the Chromie pool one was actually cool.
Yeah, and there's the snowball brawl, the snow
No.
brawl.
No.
So
None of them have been as cool as this one. Like it has almost a narrative element to it, and I think it could like easily be developed a little further and made into its own mode in the game, and I would love to see that. Possibly we could find ourselves playing against more than just like here's heroes that we already have, but with their Zerg skins, like we could see actual like I don't know, big old hero Zerg or something. It would involve Blizzard putting work in, so I don't know how much they'd be willing to do here, but
Yeah,
I would love to see a developed version of it. It'd be cool.
The thing, right? Is like development costs are the real deal, So like this wasn't like negligent. Like there's definitely new assets that they put in. Not a ton of new assets, but definitely new assets.
It was definitely good, but it still is a free to play game. Though I would like to point out that in 2017, the profit margins for the free to play economy have doubled in the industry. So Blizzard, I think you can probably handle it.
Also, this would make Kevin way too happy, and I don't know if it's going to happen. But if you do see it become its own mode, you're going to see a whole new thing open up with heroes where the speed running comes into it. And I don't want to see that. That would make Kevin entirely too happy.
Yeah, well, up to this point, I've never been happy, so it would be a big change for sure.
But would you watch some speed running of this mode, Kevin?
I've already watched some speed running of this mode. I was so enthused when that like started popping up online. It's just like, pro teams being like, oh yeah, we just decided to speedrun it, and then, average Joes start taking over and they beat the pros, and the pros have to respawn, and then they start trying to beat each other. It was like great like meta entertainment.
See, for all our new listeners who maybe haven't heard our old episodes yet, and if you haven't, you should go on SoundCloud and check them out. But Kevin has this thing where he's under this kind of impression that speed running is an esport. And so I think Kevin might be a little bit more enthused if this did become its own little like for streamers to do it. I think I don't know if I would watch a speed run of this though. If it was all as entertaining as Aden was during the final boss, maybe.
So what you're saying is I should speedrun it?
Yes. And you should do exactly what you did in the one that we did.
Wait, I have a question for you, Kevin. So speedrunning as an esport, speedrunning just like speedrunning this, like, just doing it fast, or speedrunning like people do with, let's say, like Super Mario 64, where it's like, glitches and things like and exploits and stuff.
Well, I mean, if the glitches and exploits are there, then that's one factor, and you can do glitchless speed runs or normal speed runs. I'm speaking more just generally about normal any percentage speed runs right now. Like, do you remember the show Video and Arcade Top 10 from way back when?
Yes, actually. Yeah.
Yeah, so I mean, you can kind of do it that way if you want it to be like more entertaining as a live event. You can set up two teams next to each other and you can have them compete in real time. So I mean, that's one way that you can do it. Or there's just like the general idea of like every once in a while a new record comes out and people check it out and discuss new strategies, stuff like that.
Thanks for aging every single one of us there, Kevin.
Yeah, well, you know what? I need my what do they used to do? I need my bum equipment, like those new watches, copies of Donkey Kong on the SNES.
And all the t-shirts.
Oh yeah, tons of t-shirts.
I mean, I have to admit, I somewhat see the appeal of speed runs, but I've never been one for the like glitch and exploit runs. I just really like watching someone be very good at a game. Like watching someone speed run like Dark Souls is super neat. I love that.
So you're gonna call me weird again, but I actually watched a speed run of Ocarina of Time and really enjoyed that.
Well, I don't know
Um,
what you guys are, being so smug about. Speedruns are great.
I mean, I'm
yeah,
not being smug. I fully admit properly pulling off the glitches and exploits is a skill on its own. I just prefer it's when it's like just someone plays the game regularly but very fast and well.
Yeah, it's totally viable desire, and I think, and there's a lot of speedruns that accommodate that. And I think
the
Escape from Braxis could be that for
mm,
Heroes of the Storm.
yeah, but here's the thing: watching one person do a speed run really well would be really entertaining. Doing it tournament style would get tiresome.
Well, I'm not suggesting it like replace normal heroes or that it like reach the same stature, but it could be like a once a year event or something.
Yeah, I can totally see it at like if they did like a. I know they're testing it out in Europe right now, but like a Nexus Games, have that be one of the events per se.
Yeah, so Aiden, if you're talking about them really like expanding Escape from Braxis and this PvE style of play in Heroes, are you talking about purely as like a casual, like fun thing to do on occasion? Because like, what's the like replay value for this sort of thing in your mind?
I mean, I think the obvious place to go with it is some sort of like an unlock system where you unlock more things for I don't know. I don't know exactly how you do it, but kind of like how they have the unlockable like commander abilities or whatever in like StarCraft in that co-op mode that they have, or possibly the way they used to do. I don't know if anyone remembers the old way they used to do hero talents in Heroes of the Storm, where when you were below a certain level with a hero, you only got access to certain talents. So I don't know, things like that. I think they would have to probably do a lot more work than they're willing to do, like I said. But if you just reworked things and made all of the viable or all of the available heroes in Braxis have an actual Braxis themed talent list, it'd be really cool to unlock those as you go or something like that. Or even unlock more heroes to use in Braxis. Could be neat. Just you start off with a small list, and as you play, you get to unlock more. Maybe not necessarily just the more viable heroes, but the more interesting heroes for that mode. A progression system, I think, would automatically bring people back. It always does. It works for Call of Duty, for God's sake. It's got to work for this.
And if you want to see a slower run but no less entertaining, you can watch our attempt at the and successful attempt, as Kevin would add, um, of the heroic escape from Braxis. We'll have that up for you guys soon as well.
On Aiden's first try.
Yeah,
Yeah,
get
This
so
is
that
the
in there.
best.
we redefine speed run, which is do circle strafing around the boss as we try desperately to revive each other as we chain die.
And we see Aiden's voice go up about 3 octaves.
It's a different kind of speed run where it's not the speed that you do, the one playthrough. It's how many playthroughs it takes to get through it. And I won by getting it in one speed run or one round. So I won the speed run competition.
All right. Well,
Yup.
talking about more traditional competition, Sam, you wanted to talk lastly about the other the other apocalypse that has been going on, which is the roster apocalypse in the HGC.
Yes, the roster apocalypse, which actually ended up being a little underwhelming, but there was some definite change ups going on that I think we should all know about. The first and foremost is that Gale Force Esports, my team, is coming back bigger and I hope better. um, Michael Udall, who announced his retirement a little while ago, has come out of said retirement, so it didn't last very long. To play with Gale Force again. I'm happy to see that. No matter what you think of the person, he is a great player. And they're also picking up a tank that I'm very familiar with, Fury. And he's actually, I would say, top 3 in North America. He has had roster issues with other teams. As many of you might be familiar, there's a meme, essentially saying it's Fury's fault. A meme going around saying, if you have Fury on your team, Fury's the problem. I believe that's what it was. He had some relationship issues or something with a team he was on, but I'm glad to see him on this team because at the end of the day, he's a really, really good tank player. Main tank players are actually really hard to find in North America, so I'm really happy Gale Force did that. But the other changes are things like Aiden's pick from last year, Tempo Storm.
Yeah.
They are bringing in both Fan, which is arguably one of the top players in North America, and Glaurung from, I believe, Team Freedom, which we saw in the HGC finals of this year. So they're coming in and actually, they're actually both joining Tempo Storm. So they did make quite a few good changes. So you might see a little bit more confidence coming from Tempo Storm. We also have our buddies Roll20.
Just to chime in, I believe Glaurung was from Roll20.
My mistake. Sorry, guys. So they're now on that team because our buddies over here at Roll20 have brought in 2 players as well. They parted ways with, you're right, Kevin, Glaurung and Prismaticism. I believe Glaurung chose to leave and Prismaticism was let go. And so we're actually, and the analysis I'm looking at is from Heroes Hearth. They did a really great grading system, which kind of broke down the changes for each team from Trent Esports. And so he gave Roll20, I think, the only A out of all of them. He said that they filled the gaps in their roster to things that were well suited to their needs, and retained the best core trio, he thinks, in the region. What do you guys think? Are we going to see another last minute Vikings pick from these guys with their new team? I think they can pretty much go anywhere. Like, they can't go much lower than that. Like, it's all up from here for them.
Well, look, Justing was the guy who was doing the shot calling, and he's still there. So, I mean, the drafting and the shot calling is not, that role hasn't changed.
I'm kind of okay with that because I think he might have learned something from that. I hope. But I'm pretty sure they are getting 2 new members in Cure and Dineski, which they say fill their needs really well. So I'm kind of hoping that with Justin still being there, he's kind of learned a little bit from last year and kind of maybe bringing some experience in this time.
Yeah, honestly,
I mean, like you said, it literally couldn't be worse than what happened last time. So it's we're all looking up from here.
Yeah, I mean, disasters aside, Roll20 seemed to have the strongest squad going into the 2017 season, and the HGC finals. And if they are, patching their weaknesses and getting new blood in, then I think that they're just going to be still the most dominant North American team. Gale Force still not going to be top in the charts.
Well, they still have Goku, and he's being touted as like this real kind of boy wonder up and comer in North America, and I tend to agree with them. I actually think he's smart. He's a little quieter than the rest of the team was, but I kind of like that about him. He's a little bit more level-headed. And we also have Team Freedom, who has some changes as well. Zugrug, who was in our first interview, he's still on the team, so he made it through. But we also have Yoda and Lutano joining Team Freedom, so that could be something as well. Although they're gonna have a lot of work to do to get up further in tournaments, I think. My big thing is I love Gale Force Esports. I absolutely love the team. Akaface is one of the best supports I've ever seen. Um, and I definitely am looking forward to the addition of Fury, and this is going to make me excited for this year. My only issue with Gale Force is they have had issues on social media, some kind of like unofficial kind of rumors swirling around about issues with paying their players and things like that. So I'm really hoping that all those contract issues got worked out. We did see Michael Udall come out of retirement for this, and some are questioning that they needed him in order to form a legal roster. So it does kind of strike me as weird that he would go into retirement just to turn around a couple months later and come back. He even did a cheeky little video of, I did this many events and I only won this many. Did you really think I was done? I think he's one of those personalities that's going to bring a lot of eyes to professional heroes, and I'm really, really looking for Gale Force to be the dominant strength in North America. So go Gale Force. Just
Go
pay your
Tempo
players.
Storm.
No.
Tempo Storm's gonna win.
Yeah.
And
no. MVP. Or
yeah,
sorry, KS. What is it?
KSV.
yeah, they
I
did
think-
change their name.
KSV Black. I'm never gonna get used to that. I'm gonna call them MVP Black probably until the day I die.
So
Yeah.
Fnatic, Team Dignitas, KSV Black now, they're all coming back. So we're gonna see we're gonna see them dominate, I think, again. I think people just look to North America as like the entire region is kind of the scrappy underdog, and I think people are kind of secretly cheering for a North American team to just come out and be dominant, because you always have Korea being dominant, and then you have Europe coming in with Fnatic and Team Dignitas, and I think people just want to see it changed up a little bit. Any of our viewers, feel free to comment and tell us who you think is going to be the new hope for North America, or if you just
Spoiler
think
alert.
that or if you just think that Europe and Korea will continue to dominate the Heroes esports scene. And tell us about anything else you've heard on the episode today, and we'll be sure to check out your comments. Also, you can follow us on Twitter, Facebook, and Instagram. We are constantly posting things there as well, so feel free to give us a follow. Also, check out Phantom and Kay, who did the really cool music that you hear throughout this podcast. So until next time, guys, we'll see you in the Nexus.
More like Garbanzo.
Stop with the awkward outros. Ugh. I'm never. Ugh.
You're gonna need to come up with a new way to make fun of me, Aiden. You need fresh material.
Never. Never. I'll never need anything again in my life.
That gets old fast. And then stays old forever.